Hello and welcome to Advice Line Plus. I'm Charlene and tonight I want to talk to you about well-being, about looking after yourself and your child and family during this crisis. We're in a very difficult context just now, and it's not our style at Scottish Autism to be prescriptive or directive. So what I really wanted to do tonight was remind you of all the things that you already know, all the skills you already have, all the resources you have and knowledge you have about your child to help you manage stress and cope during this difficult time. I think it's really important to say that your own personal knowledge of your child is now more than ever really important. And so what I really wanted to do was just sort of talk over some of the things that you might want to think about to draw on to manage in this stressful time. And I think the key message really is, you know what works, you know your child, and this quote has done the rounds on social media. I don't really know who to attribute it to, but never in the history of calming down has anyone ever calmed down by being told to calm down. And in some ways that's stating the obvious. However, what the sort of sentiment in that really is for me is that you will have by now spent a long time in lots of different situations, developing strategies, figuring out alternative ways to do things, modifying communication, building in predictability, and so that you know that you have those skills and you can draw on them to help you strategize and support and enable your child or young person during this time. So some of the things I wanted to talk about were the things that you already have. So remember all the things you can control. This is a really fluid situation. It's an indefinite situation. We don't know when it's going to end, but there are still things that are predictable within that. You still have, breakfast, lunch, dinner. You still have times of activity, times of less activity, relaxing times. You have bedtimes, which I know bring their own challenges for some of you. But there's all the things that you can still control. We don't know when we're going to be out of lockdown. We don't know when this situation is going to end, but there are a lot of things that you can already control and determine. So it might be a good idea even to get pen and paper and think, there's a lot of things that you are in control of and list those down. And similarly, all the things that are changing, but all the things that you can keep the same. What are the routines that you already have in place for you and your child that you can hold on to, that you can keep, and that you don't need to deviate from and change? I wanted to mention autistic joy, and a fabulous autistic man, Dean Beadle, really taught me about this phrase. And I think that autistic people, I think we all, but autistic people need joyful and happy and meaningful things for them at this time. And I think that that's about recognising the things that your child is interested in, the things that your child likes to engage in, the things that on a sensory level or on an activity level bring joy. And down the years, I've worked with people and the range of things that bring joy is very wide. For some people, it might be seeing an Eddie Stobart lorry. For some people, it might be sensory stimulation with natural sponges. One lady loved brown wool. For other people, it was like a car transporter. For some people, it was lining and ordering. So there are all those things that are very personal to your autistic child that bring joy and pleasure. And those really are the things that we want to make sure people have plenty of opportunity to engage with through difficult times. Lots of autistic people have interests and activities that they like to engage in, and some of them might be curtailed just now. And that's a very, very difficult thing to get across to someone who perhaps is not communicating in a kind of verbal style. But I think the thing there is, what are the elements of those interests and activities? Are they physical things? Are they cerebral things? Are they sensory things? What are the things that are generally of interest, and can you bring an alternative to your child where they are, or their young person? Can you kind of dissemble all the things that they're interested in and find the commonalities and find the bits that you can draw on to maybe introduce other similar activities with those elements? I think motivation is challenging for everyone in this situation. There's a lot of inertia around generally. We're not perhaps as structured and occupied as we would like to be, or that we're used to being, but there are undoubtedly things that your child or young person will find motivating. There are things that they will find spark the desire to engage or be active, or to take part in something. So again, maybe remind yourself of all the things that your young person finds motivating, and try and build them into the day as much as possible. The other thing is about priorities. I think it's really difficult to accept that we're in a new situation, and things that mattered a few weeks ago really are not that important today. So it's a bit about reprioritizing and really knuckling down and narrowing down to what it is that's really, really important. The have-tos, the things that you have to do. And also what I think of as the frozen strategy, the things that you can let go, let it go. And I think this is particularly challenging for parents who are perhaps feeling pressure around homeschooling. We know a lot of autistic children struggle anyway with the idea of homework, because schoolwork belongs in school and things at home belong in home. And that's about, I think, thinking, okay, what are the things that we can do in the house that have an educational element to them, but don't look the same as traditional education? So things like baking, artwork, sorting, counting, those kind of things that you can bring into everyday activities that are perhaps more academically dealt with in school, but are dealt with in a different way. But really the key thing, I think, around well-being is to not try to do it all, to set out what are the priorities for you and your child, and to really think about what you can let go, what really doesn't matter in this time, because your well-being and your child's well-being are inextricably linked, and we'll talk a bit about that later. Really important to think of keeping well mentally, emotionally and physically in this time. And some of the things to think about are the things that are what I would call in person. So what are the things that you as a person, or your child as a person, has that keep them well? So that might be levels of activity, it might be things that they like to think about or engage in, interests, activities, anything that the resource that you have in yourself. I hope I'm explaining this well. It's the idea of what do you have in yourself that helps you manage your health and well-being, and to think about what does my child or young person have in themselves that help them manage their well-being. And a lot of that is attached to the things that we spoke about earlier, about things that are motivating, that bring joy, that are interesting. The other thing is things that are external to individuals, the environment. And home is a place that your child will be very, very used to. If they're a school-age child, they won't be used to spending so much time at home, perhaps. So there's a little bit about thinking there about how can you adjust the environment so that it sort of perhaps feels familiar and secure, but also that you're not confusing things by trying to turn the kitchen into a classroom or the dining table into an office. And most of us are home working just now. I'm home working, and it's quite disorientating to have part of your house where you might normally eat and socialise to have books and things all out on it, and your laptop and stuff. So just think about the messages the environment is giving, and thinking how you can structure the environment and use that environment in a very situational way. So there's maybe not much hope of getting sort of school type work or desk type work done in the living room where the television is. I know that not everyone has lots of space, but I guess the key thing I'm trying to get across is just thinking about how you can demarcate your environment and use your environment, and maybe add some more visual supports into the environment that you might not normally particularly use at home. Next one, to think about interactive and social supports. Your relationship with your child is key at this time, and you want to have a happy household. You want to have enjoyable times. I know that isn't always sustainable. There's a lot of stress around, and people get upset, but it's about, I think, tuning into that level of engagement and interaction and social time that you and your child can spend together or with other members of the immediate family in the household. So there's that idea of what social elements can people draw on. And I know that some people have topics of discussion. Some autistic children like to talk about particular interests, and that can be challenging when you're maybe answering the same question over and over again. But I think if it's about engagement, isn't it? It's about making contact with that person. And so to think about keeping the balance of that social interaction and social contact in the house, because you're probably not used to spending so much time in the house together as a family, and everyone in that situation has needs. So that leads me to think about the transactional nature of stress and the transactional nature of happiness. And I think that it's very tempting to put your own well-being on hold in a time like this, and I can completely understand why you would. But I think that we know enough that about stress, that it's transactional. So if you're very stressed and very tired, that will have an impact on the interaction between you and your child. And similarly, if your child is highly stressed and anxious during this time, that's going to affect you. So thinking about that sort of stress reduction for the whole family is really, really important. And sometimes that might be just, regular little 10 minutes away on your own if you can. And believe me, I know that not everyone can. So just trying to think about that relationship, the stress dynamic that is going on in the family, and that recognising that at different times through this situation, people will have different needs. People will, your needs will be up here, and your child's doing fine and they're engaged and they're happy. Your child's stress levels will be up here, and you'll be, a bit more in a position where you can cope with it. So I guess it's paying attention to how the whole family dynamic is going, and giving each other permission to be stressed, but recognising that when that happens, some strategies and some coping strategies need to come into play. And I think it's about taking a bit of time to reflect on what generally works and helps in normal times, if you like, and how can we adapt that to the new situation that we're in. I want to just talk about a few things that I've learned down the years that help autistic people cope. It's not exhaustive. They are things to think about. And I want to start with people people need people, autistic people need people. And it's very likely that there are a lot of people who your child is used to engaging with who are out their lives at the moment, whether that's school friends, school teachers, swimming teachers, people that they encounter in the park, dance classes they go to, you know, art groups, grandparents, other relatives and family members. That's really, really important. And it's, I guess, about thinking about how you can still keep that thread of contact going, whether that's looking through photograph albums, Skyping, or using FaceTime or the technology. Google Earth is a brilliant thing because you can go around the streets on your laptop and you can see where your school is, and children can appreciate the school's still there, that the park that they go to is still there. But the rule is just now that none of us can go to these things, or we can only go in a very limited and controlled way. So I guess it's about thinking how you can keep that social connectedness to the people and the places that your child is used to as part of the fabric of their day. And I'm sure many of you are doing these things already, but sometimes autistic children and young people need that bit of reassurance that other people are okay, that they are in their own houses and they're safe and they're well and they're okay. So it's maybe thinking about worries about people as being a source of anxiety or concern to your child or young person. The other thing is things, and things are important to a lot of autistic people. Little possessions, flappies, books, objects that they like to have that are grounding and anchoring for them, that have significance for them. That's maybe not always clear to people who are not autistic or who are not in the family. But those things are important, and making sure that the person knows where their prized possessions are, that they don't get mislaid, that they can have access to the things that they like to use for comfort. It is really, really important. And usually when I'm talking about this, there's always a bit of me that says that what I observe in schools and in other settings is that people are always desperate to take these things off autistic people because they think they're a distractor. But what we know from speaking and listening to autistic people is they're often a grounder, they're a comforter, they're the very thing that help people relax and focus and concentrate. So think about things like that. And access to prized possessions and loved objects to keep that going is really important. Habits. As families, as individuals, we all have habits, we all have traditions, we all have routines. And I think those, again, are anchoring and grounding, and they're more important now than ever, that we recognise that the things that autistic people need to do in terms of dressing routines or habits and routines around food are more important now than ever, because they provide that bit of grounding for them, that they're the familiar in the unfamiliar world. So really important to keep those familiar structures, routines, however small they might seem, to keep them going and in place and supported at this time. Going to think about thoughts and self-talk together. I've met a lot of autistic youngsters and adults who spend a lot of time in their own thoughts, and who express sometimes anxiety, sometimes as a way of problem solving what's in their head through self-talk, sort of talking out loud, thinking things out externally, if you like. And that's, I think, often it can be an indicative, helpful thing, that if you tune into that, you can sometimes pick up on things that are worrying that individual, that person is confused about and is trying to figure out, that that person's working through and making sense of. So it's tuning into that self-talk, that externalizing that some children and young people do to give you a steer on how you might support, or how that person might be worried. And these all sound to me like things that you're all probably doing anyway. And so for me, it's just a reminder that you've got this, you do know these things about your child. And as I said before, it's just the context that's a little bit different. I hope that some of that has been helpful for you to think about. At Scottish Autism, we've been busy working away, developing new resources and extending the support that we offer. And you'll just see from this slide, and if you don't catch it all, you can visit our website, www.scottishautism.org. A number of resources that we have put in place around wellbeing are there, and some very specific information resources around COVID-19. Our advice line has reopened and is open for business 7 days a week, 8 AM to 8 PM. And there are alternative ways. If you're not comfortable using the telephone, there are other ways that we can engage with you and talk to you and help, walk you through things that are concerning you and assist if we can. Some of you may already be familiar with our Right Click programme. It's an online support programme, and we have a specific programme for young children, for parents of teenagers, and one for parents who are still supporting adults at home. Again, more details about that, are on our website. And we have a specific Right Click programme for autistic women and girls. There is an enormous amount of resource on all of these platforms. A lot of particularly on the women and girls resource, developed by autistic women and girls, and the sharing of their experiences, I think, is really rich and really helpful at this time. We have a new range of services, our Autism Advice Line Plus. As I mentioned earlier, extended hours to our advice line. We're offering live chat on our website. If you are a parent or an autistic person looking for some social contact, just to talk, you can call and have a chat with us. And we have a number of Facebook groups. Scottish Autism Affinity is a group for autistic people. We've got a group for parents and carers, and there's a generic Ask the Advisor group where if there's something you particularly want to tune into and ask, you can. So we've really tried to extend the support that we're offering. We know a number of you are very worried about being out and about, and the rules around exercise, and we're engaging with the police authorities and Scottish Government to get clarity around that. But we've developed a very specific COVID-19 alert card that you can download and use when you're out and about to help if you have a difficult social encounter with anyone or with the police when you're out and about. So the last thing for me to say is thank you for watching. Our intention was never to be preachy and teachy, but just as a little reminder that there are lots of things you know and understand that you can use to help cope and maintain your well-being and keep well during this time. Next week, we're going to have Lucy Chetty, our head teacher, talking about supporting children and young people. Lucy is an excellent practitioner with many years of experience, and I'm sure you'll find that very valuable. So meanwhile, just leaves me to say thank you for watching, and please do use our extended support. If there's anything we can do for you, we will try our very best. Thank you.